Friends, today we'll read in the Gospel, according to Matthew chapter 22, the story of the Pharisees confronting Jesus, asking him whether it was right to pay taxes. And Christ simply asked them to show him the coin in which they used. And so they brought it out, and he asked them whose image is there. And they said, Caesar's. And he, in verse 21, says, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to Caesar. You would imagine that the Pharisees confronting Jesus meant some good, or they were interested in growing in their faith, or they were interested in learning how to be good citizens and be civilly responsible. But they were setting a trap for Jesus, thinking he would fall into their trap. Because if Jesus simply said, pay taxes, the people would be discouraged and disappointed that he is encouraging this unpopular tax that the government, the Roman authorities are imposing on them. And if he says, do not, and reject that payment of taxes, they will simply go to the governor, to the civil authorities to report Jesus of ganging against their authority and their government. So simply Jesus said, render to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. But to show you that these guys, we are not interested in growth in the way of faith. If they were, they were supposed to ask, what then belongs to God? If you've recommended, we know what belongs to Caesar, the coin has the image of Caesar, so we'll pay to the civil guy, we'll pay the taxes as something that belongs to Caesar. And then what then belongs to God? I'm sure Jesus would have asked them, you asking the question, whose image are you made of? Whose image are you made of? And the simple answer that cannot be denied will be, we are made in the image and likeness of God. We are made in the image and likeness of God. And that solves the whole problem. Friends, if we are made in the image and likeness of God, it means that our total obedience and loyalty should be to the one whose image we are made. And our conformity to him will transform us and teach us how to be responsible and good citizens in a society, and not the other way around. Friends, by that answer, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God, Christ recommends discernment to us. Discernment, not necessarily the distinction between good and bad, good and evil, right and wrong, but rather the practice of careful distinctions in the way we think about truth and the way we live the truth. The way we think about truth and the way we live the truth that we have thought about. It becomes necessary in our time when it is so hard to disagree. It's difficult even to have a different opinion. In a time like this, when we have allowed the rhetoric of a few to confuse us in our obedience to God in whose image we are made. In a time when we have allowed our power to think be confused and distorted by the media, the politicians, the newspapers, the TV shows. We've allowed our obedience to God to be determined by our political affiliations. We have allowed the society to tell us how to show loyalty and obedience to the one in whose image we are made. We've lost our power to discern. We've allowed the rhetoric of one who tells people what they want to hear, not necessarily what he is convinced or she is convinced about, because that's what people like to hear. So we pray today and always that God will help us to develop this character of the discerning heart that knows that we are made in the image of God, and that our first priority is loyalty and obedience to God, that we allow God to teach us how to render to Caesar what truly belongs to Caesar, because all that there are belongs to God in whose image we are, and we will be held accountable to him on the last day. God bless you.